Hey, what's up everybody? Too Tall Toby here, and in today's Onshape quick tip, I just wanted to show you some of the most common shortcut keys that I'm using as I'm going through my journey of learning Onshape. So the first and most prominent one is just the letter S on the keyboard. The S key shortcut menu is one of my absolute favorites. I've already made a video completely dedicated to the S key, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore, but if you haven't seen that video, be sure to check it out. So I picked the top plane, I pressed the letter S, and that lets me jump into sketch mode. So I'm going to jump into that sketch on the top plane, and then I'm going to start by pressing the letter N on my keyboard. N for normal 2, definitely a shortcut key that I use a lot. Next, I'll press the S key again and jump into the rectangle command. And from the rectangle command, I'll use the auto dimension functionality. Not necessarily a hotkey in the traditional sense, but definitely something worth knowing about. Now, the next hotkey that I'm using a lot is the V key for vertical. So I could hit this point here, pick this point here, and then press the letter V, and that takes those 2 points and makes them vertical to one another. I could also select this lower line and this point here and press the letter I, and that's going to make those two coincident to one another. Now, here's a shortcut that I think is really valuable, and this works because of how I set up my mouse. When I started using Onshape, I said I wanted my mouse to work the same way it works in SOLIDWORKS, and one of those functionalities is I can hold the control key on my keyboard, and then I can hold down on the middle mouse wheel, and I can drag, and that's a shortcut for pan. So control plus the middle mouse button is a shortcut for pan. Very useful in Onshape. Now I'm going to create a circle, and I'll just drop this circle right here on this line. And after I've created that circle, I'll say I want it to be 40 millimeters. And then what I can do is I can select the circle, and I can select this line here, and I can press the letter T for tangent. But a little shortcut that I often use is I'll just do what's called a crossing select to select those two, and then I'll press the letter T to make those two tangent. And that's very useful when you've got a situation like this where you've got a line and then you've got an arc, and your goal is to make those two tangent. Well, you can just do a crossing selection, and then you can press the letter T, and that makes those two tangent. Very, very useful little workflow there in 3D CAD. Now, I showed how we could make this point vertical to the origin. The other thing that we could do is we could create a circle here, and we could say that we want this circle to be horizontal using that same technique. So I could take this point and this point here, and then press the letter H on my keyboard and make those two horizontal. So I think I'm pretty happy with how this sketch is looking. I'm going to press the S key again, and I'm going to jump into the extrude command. And when I do jump into the extrude command, another shortcut that I use a lot is the tab key on my keyboard. So as soon as I jump into the extrude command, I can press tab on my keyboard here, and I can tab down to the depth of the extrusion. Let's say I wanted that to be 40 millimeters, and I can press enter to update the preview. But what I really want is I want that to be symmetric. So I can press the tab key again, and I can go down here to symmetric, press the space bar, and then I can press enter. Now, that may have seemed like a lot of clicking around and like it took a really long time, but if I hold control and press Z, which is undo, and I try that whole process again, let's jump into the extrude command, and I'm just gonna press tab, 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 type in my new depth 30, enter to update the preview, tab, 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 space, enter. You can really start flying through some of these workflows when you learn some of these hotkeys. And now maybe I'm ready to present this to a customer or present it to a coworker, or maybe I just don't want to see the planes anymore. Well, what I could do is I can press the letter P on my keyboard to hide and show the planes, or I can hold Shift and press the letter P, and that hides all of the reference geometry, the planes, the origin, everything that's reference geometry related. And so those are some of my favorite shortcuts in Onshape. Those are definitely shortcuts that I find myself using over and over and over again. But let me know down in the comments, did I miss any of your favorite shortcuts? Are there any super commonly used shortcuts that I should know about that maybe I'm not aware of? And of course, if you're enjoying this series, be sure to like, be sure to subscribe, and be sure to come back for the next episode.